I refused to babysit my sister's kids. So she threw them in a taxi to my place anyway, except the driver took them wrong. 3 days later, I got the call that completely ruined her. My sister dumped her kids in a taxi to my address, but the driver got it wrong. The moment the police called, my blood ran cold, because what happened next would shatter her entire life, and our family with it. It was a cool, crisp Saturday morning, the kind where you can almost taste the promise of a peaceful day. I was actually looking forward to my professional conference, running through notes over coffee, when my phone rang. An unknown number. My stomach dropped even before I answered. My sister, Chloe, always believed the world should bend to her convenience. Growing up, she was the golden child, adored by our parents, Eleanor and Arthur. I was just there, expected to be grateful for any scraps of attention. Their message was always clear: Chloe's needs trumped mine. When she wanted my room, I moved to the basement. When she needed money for college, my scholarship funds mysteriously vanished into her tuition. I just absorbed it all with the naive belief that family meant sacrifice. Chloe married Michael when she was 24, a real estate developer who bankrolled her princess lifestyle without question. They had 2 kids, Isabel and Liam, now 8 and 5. I loved those kids fiercely, despite everything else. They were innocent, caught between adults who should have known better. The problems escalated about a year ago. Chloe decided she needed me time more frequently. Her version of me time meant expensive spa weekends, shopping trips to Chicago, and wine tastings in Malibu. She'd call me, expecting free childcare with barely an hour's notice, completely disregarding my full-time job as a financial analyst and my own life. I said yes far too many times. The pattern became unbearable. Last month, Chloe called on a Thursday afternoon. I was in the middle of a critical presentation. My phone buzzed relentlessly until I finally excused myself and answered. "I need you to watch the kids this weekend," she announced, no preamble. "I can't. I have plans." "Cancel them." "Michael booked us a surprise trip to Asheville, and we leave tomorrow morning." My jaw clenched. "Chloe, I'm asking you to find someone else. I have a work commitment I can't reschedule." "You're so selfish," she hissed. "Family is supposed to help family. What's more important than your niece and nephew? This isn't about them. This is about you assuming I have no life." She hung up on me. I thought that was the end of it. Saturday morning, my phone rang again. "Hello? Is this the residence of the person who lives at 847 West Parkview Avenue, apartment 12C?" a male voice asked. My stomach dropped. "Yes, this is she." "Who's calling?" "This is Officer Ben Carter with the LAPD. We have 2 minors here who were found alone outside an apartment building. They had a note with this address." Ice flooded my veins. "What? What are you talking about?" A taxi driver dropped off 2 children, approximately ages 8 and 5, at 847 Parkview Avenue, but there's no apartment 12C in that building. It only goes up to 8 floors. The kids were left on the sidewalk. A neighbor called us when she found them crying. "Wait, I live at 847 West Parkview Avenue, apartment 12C. Is the address on the note missing the West?" "Let me check." "Yes, it just says 847 Parkview Avenue." The driver took them to 847 East Parkview, which is a completely different building across town. My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped the phone. "Oh my God, are they okay? Are they hurt?" "They're frightened, but physically unharmed." "Can you verify their identities?" "They say their names are Isabel and Liam." "Yes. Those are my niece and nephew." "Where are they now?" "At the 19th Precinct Station. We need a guardian to come pick them up immediately." I grabbed my keys and wallet, not even bothering to change out of my pajama pants. The conference could go to hell. Those babies were alone and scared because of Chloe's reckless entitlement. The precinct was chaos. I identified myself, and an officer led me to a small room where Isabel and Liam sat on a bench, holding hands. Isabel's face was streaked with tears, and Liam clutched the stuffed dinosaur like his life depended on it. "Aunt Gwen!" Isabel launched herself at me, sobbing into my shoulder. I held them both, fury building in my chest like a wildfire. "You're safe now. I've got you." Officer Carter appeared with paperwork. "We need to document this incident. Can you explain your relationship to these children?" "I'm their maternal aunt. Their mother is my sister." "And where is their mother?" "I have no idea." The admission tasted bitter. "She asked me to babysit this weekend." I told her no because I had work obligations. I had no knowledge she planned to send them anywhere. Officer Carter's expression hardened. "So she sent 2 minors alone in a taxi without confirming someone would be there to receive them? Apparently, that's child endangerment. We'll need to file a report." My phone buzzed. "Chloe." I declined the call. It rang again immediately. "You should probably answer that," Officer Carter suggested. I picked up. "What the hell did you do?" "Finally." "Where are my kids?" The taxi driver said he dropped them off hours ago. "They're at a police station because he put them in a cab to an address that doesn't exist. They were found abandoned on a street corner." Silence. "Then, what are you talking about?" "I sent them to your apartment. I live at 847 West Parkview Avenue, apartment 12C. You wrote down 847 Parkview Avenue with no east or west designation. The driver took them to a completely different building on the other side of Los Angeles, one that doesn't even have a 12C. Did you even verify the address before you shoved your children into a taxi alone? And what taxi company accepts unaccompanied minors without questioning it? Don't you dare lecture me. This is your fault for not agreeing to help." Officer Carter held out his hand for my phone. I gave it to her. "Mrs. Brennan, this is Officer Ben Carter with the LAPD. Your children were found abandoned on the sidewalk in Los Angeles. We're filing a child endangerment report. You need to return to the city immediately." I couldn't hear Chloe's response, but the officer's expression suggested it wasn't cooperative. "That's not optional, ma'am. If you fail to return within 24 hours, we'll be forwarding this case to Child Protective Services." She ended the call and handed back my phone. The next several hours involved statements, paperwork, and phone calls. I contacted Michael directly. He was horrified. He'd been told I'd agreed to watch the kids and that Chloe had arranged everything properly. "I never would have gone along with this if I'd known," he said, his voice tight with anger. "We're coming back right now." Eleanor called next, screeching about how I was tearing the family apart. "Your daughter put 2 children in a taxi to a wrong address and left them on a street corner alone in Los Angeles," I said flatly. "I'm not the villain here. You refused to help. What was she supposed to do? Find a responsible babysitter? Hire a service? Cancel her trip? Literally anything except endanger her own children. You've always been jealous of Chloe." I hung up. The CPS investigation launched within 48 hours. A caseworker, Sarah Jenkins, contacted me. I provided everything: phone records showing Chloe's demands and my refusal, the police report, witness statements from the neighbors who found the kids, and the taxi company's records showing the driver had been given an incomplete address. The taxi company was also under investigation for accepting unaccompanied minors, but that was a separate matter. Michael filed for divorce 3 weeks later. He'd hired a family law attorney and was seeking primary custody based on Chloe's demonstrated negligence. The police report became Exhibit A. Chloe spiraled. She called me screaming, blaming me for destroying her marriage and turning everyone against her. Eleanor backed her up, naturally, sending me long text messages about family loyalty and forgiveness. Those children could have been taken, trafficked, or gravely harmed, I texted back. There is no forgiving that level of recklessness. Arthur called, which was rare. My father usually let Eleanor handle family drama. Your mother is very upset. Chloe endangered her own children because I wouldn't drop everything for her convenience. I have nothing to apologize for. She made a mistake. She made a choice. Mistakes are accidents. This was deliberate disregard for her children's safety. He sighed heavily. Your sister needs support right now. Her children needed protection. That's more important. The custody battle stretched over 4 months. Michael's attorney, Rebecca Stone, was ruthless, documenting every instance of Chloe's neglectful behavior. There was the time she left Liam in a hot car. The afternoon she forgot to pick up Isabel from school because she was at a hair appointment. The incident where she let the kids play unsupervised near a busy street while she took selfies. Between the initial police report and the custody hearing, my life became consumed by legal proceedings and family warfare. Eleanor launched a full-scale campaign against me, calling every relative we had to spin her version of events. According to her narrative, I was a bitter, childless woman who had weaponized one mistake to steal my sister's children out of jealousy. Our Aunt Brenda, Eleanor's younger sister, called me. Your mother is beside herself. She can barely get out of bed. Her grandchildren were left alone on a Los Angeles street corner, I replied. Maybe her priorities are misplaced. Chloe said you refused to help out of spite. Chloe asked me to babysit with an hour's notice. I had work commitments. I said no, which is my right as an adult with my own life. She then committed a crime by endangering her children. Family helps family, Gwen. Family doesn't endanger children. There's a difference between helping and being bulldozed. Brenda hung up on me. She wasn't the last. Over the following weeks, I received countless messages from cousins, family friends, and people I barely remembered meeting. All had been fed Chloe's version where she was the victim of my cruelty. I stopped defending myself after a while. The people who mattered knew the truth. Everyone else could believe whatever they wanted. My job became a refuge. My supervisor, Maria Rodriguez, called me into her office. Everything okay? You seem stressed. I gave her the abbreviated version. Her expression shifted from concern to outrage. She put kids in a cab to a wrong address? And now I'm the villain for reporting it? That's insane. You potentially saved those kids' lives. Maria leaned back. Take whatever time you need for court dates or meetings. We'll work around it. That kindness meant everything during a period when my own family was treating me like a pariah. The preliminary custody hearing happened on a gray October morning. Rebecca Stone had prepared me extensively. Chloe's team will try to discredit you. They'll suggest you're exaggerating or that you have ulterior motives. Stay calm, stick to facts, and don't let them bait you into emotional reactions. The courthouse was downtown, all marble floors and echoing hallways. Chloe arrived with her attorney, a man in an expensive suit. She wouldn't look at me. Michael squeezed my shoulder before we entered. Thank you for doing this. Those are my niece and nephew. I'd walk through fire for them. The hearing itself was brutal. Chloe's attorney painted her as a devoted mother who'd made an error in judgment during a stressful time. He emphasized her volunteer work, her involvement in school activities, the stable home environment. When Rebecca called me to testify, Chloe's attorney objected to nearly everything I said. Judge Hayes, a stern woman in her 60s, overruled most of the objections and let me speak. Ms. Mitchell, please describe the events of October 15th. I walked through it methodically: the conference, Chloe's last-minute demand, my clear refusal, the phone call from Officer Carter, finding Isabel and Liam terrified at the police station. Did Mrs. Brennan confirm your address before sending the children? No. If she had, she would have realized the address doesn't exist as she wrote it down. Did she inform you she was sending them despite your refusal? No. I had no knowledge they were coming until the police called. Chloe's attorney stood for cross-examination. Miss Mitchell, isn't it true that you've always resented your sister's success? No. You're not jealous that she has a family while you're single and childless? Rebecca objected. Judge Hayes sustained it. Counsel, stick to relevant questions. Miss Mitchell, how many times have you watched your niece and nephew in the past? Dozens of times over the years. So, you've established a pattern of helping your sister with childcare. And on this occasion, you chose work over family? I chose a professional commitment I'd made months in advance over a last-minute demand that ignored my clearly stated boundaries. He tried several more angles, all attempting to frame me as the unreasonable party. But the police report was damning. Officer Carter's testimony about finding 2 small children abandoned on a sidewalk was worse. The taxi company's record showing Chloe had given an incorrect address sealed it. Judge Hayes ordered a full custody evaluation. These are serious allegations. I want a comprehensive assessment of both parents' capabilities before making any determinations. The evaluation process took 6 weeks. Michael and Chloe both underwent psychological assessments, home visits, and interviews with court-appointed evaluators. The kids were interviewed separately by a child psychologist. I wasn't part of the official evaluation, but Isabel told me later what the psychologist had asked. She wanted to know if we felt safe with Mom. I told her about the time Mom left Liam in the car and he couldn't get out because the child locks were on. What did she say? She wrote it down and asked me more questions about other times we felt scared or worried. Liam had apparently told the psychologist about an incident at a playground where Chloe had been so absorbed in her phone that he'd climbed to the top of equipment meant for older kids and fallen, breaking his arm. Chloe's version had been that she'd looked away for seconds. Liam's account made it clear she'd been distracted for nearly 15 minutes. The evaluator's report was devastating for Chloe. It documented a pattern of neglectful behavior, prioritization of her own wants over the children's needs, and minimal awareness of age-appropriate supervision requirements. The taxi incident was labeled as demonstrating severe lapses in judgment and disregard for child safety. I received a subpoena for the final custody hearing. This one would determine the actual arrangement. Michael's parents, Susan and Thomas, flew in from Montana. I'd met them a few times over the years, nice people who clearly adored their grandchildren. Susan hugged me. Michael told us everything you did. Thank you for protecting our grandbabies. Thomas shook my hand firmly. Takes guts to stand up to family. We're grateful. Their support bolstered me. At least some people recognized this wasn't about revenge or jealousy. It was about 2 vulnerable children who deserved adults that put their safety first. Chloe took the stand first. Her attorney had coached her well. She cried at appropriate moments, talked about how much she loved her children, and insisted the taxi incident had been a one-time mistake born of desperation. I thought I was sending them to my sister's apartment, she said tearfully. I would never intentionally put my children at risk. It was a terrible error, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life. Mrs. Brennan, can you speak to the other incidents mentioned in the evaluation report? Rebecca asked during cross-examination. Those are misunderstandings or exaggerations. The car incident was less than 5 minutes while I ran into a store for milk. The playground fall was an accident that could happen to any parent. I'm being crucified for normal parenting challenges. You left a 5-year-old locked in a car in 70-degree weather for what emergency services records indicate was actually 18 minutes. Chloe's composure cracked. I lost track of time. People make mistakes. These aren't mistakes, Mrs. Brennan. They're patterns. A mistake is forgetting to pack a lunch. Leaving a child trapped in a hot vehicle is negligence. When I testified again, I focused on specific incidents I'd witnessed firsthand. The time Chloe had shown up 2 hours late to pick up the kids from my place because she decided to get a massage. The afternoon she promised to take them to the zoo but bailed because her friend invited her to brunch instead. The countless instances where she treated them as inconveniences rather than responsibilities. Do you believe your sister is incapable of caring for her children? Chloe's attorney asked during cross. I believe she's capable, but unwilling to prioritize them over her own desires. That makes her dangerous to their well-being. That's quite an accusation against your own sister. It's an observation based on years of watching her treat those kids as accessories to her lifestyle rather than human beings who depend on her for their survival. Judge Hayes's ruling came 3 weeks later. Michael got primary physical custody. Chloe received supervised visitation pending completion of parenting courses and psychological counseling. The judge's written opinion included language about a demonstrable pattern of neglect and fundamental failure to prioritize child safety. The supervised visits would be monitored by a professional, Mr. David Miller, a retired social worker with 15 years of experience. He wouldn't tolerate manipulation or inappropriate behavior. Chloe blamed me for all of it. Eleanor stopped speaking to me entirely. Arthur would occasionally send brief texts asking how I was doing, but the family unit had fractured beyond repair. The aftermath of the custody ruling created shockwaves I hadn't fully anticipated. Chloe's social circle turned on her almost immediately. Other mothers at the kids' school had heard about the court case. Suddenly, the woman who'd been hosting elaborate birthday parties was being excluded from playdate groups and PTA committees. She blamed me for that too, naturally, as if I had any control over how other parents reacted to learning she'd endangered her own children. My coworker, Jessica, stopped by my desk about a month after the ruling. I saw you mentioned in some Facebook group, parents talking about a custody case. My stomach sank. What were they saying? Just that someone local had lost custody for child endangerment. No names mentioned, but the details were specific enough that people were speculating. She paused. Look, I know you've been dealing with family stuff. If anyone here gives you grief about it, let me know. Thanks. I appreciate it. The speculation didn't bother me as much as it probably should have. Let people talk. The court documents were public record. What mattered was that Isabel and Liam were in a safer environment. Michael invited me to his apartment for dinner that first week after getting primary custody. The place looked different already, more organized and structured. He'd set up consistent routines for homework, meals, and bedtime. There was a chore chart on the refrigerator and a calendar marking important dates. They're adjusting better than I expected, he said while the kids played. Isabel seems more relaxed. Liam's sleeping through the night again. They know they're safe now. That makes all the difference. He rubbed a hand through his hair. Chloe's attorney is already filing motions to modify the visitation order. She wants unsupervised time. Already? She hasn't even started the mandated counseling yet. I know. Rebecca says it won't go anywhere, but it's going to be a constant battle. I need to ask you something. Anything. Would you be willing to be listed as an emergency guardian? If something happens to me, I want to make sure the kids don't default back to Chloe. The weight of what he was asking settled over me. You're sure? That's a huge responsibility. You're the only person I trust completely with them. You've already proven you'll put their safety above everything else, even your own family relationships. Then yes. Absolutely yes. We completed the paperwork that week. I became the designated guardian. Eleanor found out somehow and left me a voicemail that dripped with venom. You're trying to steal those children. Permanently. What kind of monster turns against her own blood like this? The kind who watched those same children nearly become gravely harmed because their mother couldn't be bothered to write down a complete address, I thought, but didn't say. I deleted the message without responding. Work became my sanctuary. I threw myself into projects, volunteered for extra assignments, and built relationships with colleagues who knew nothing about my family trauma. Maria recommended me for a promotion, which I received 3 months after the custody hearing. "You've been through hell," she told me during the celebratory lunch. "But you've never let it affect your work quality." That's impressive. Work was the one place where things made sense. Performance reviews were based on actual merit, not who could manipulate emotions better. I didn't elaborate, and she didn't press. It was refreshing to have professional boundaries respected after months of Chloe and Eleanor acting like my refusal to enable their dysfunction was a personal attack. The supervised visitation started 2 months after the ruling. Michael hired Mr. Miller, the professional monitor. Olivia told me about the first visit. Mom cried a lot. She kept saying the mean judge didn't understand and that Dad was turning us against her. How did that make you feel? Confused. We're not against her. We just want her to be safe with us. Mr. Miller told her she needed to focus on activities with us instead of talking about the court case. Good. What did you end up doing? We went to the park. Mom stayed on her phone most of the time, but at least we were together. The pattern continued. Chloe would show up for her supervised hours, but spend most of the time complaining or being too distracted to genuinely engage. Mr. Miller's reports reflected this, noting she appeared physically present but emotionally disconnected. Michael shared the reports with me. This isn't getting better. If anything, she's getting worse. What does Rebecca say? That it strengthens our case if she tries to modify custody, but it also means the kids aren't getting the relationship with their mother that they deserve. That was the tragedy underneath everything. Isabel and Liam loved Chloe despite her flaws. They wanted a mother who'd show up for them, prioritize their needs, demonstrate growth. Instead, they got someone still playing the victim and refusing to take accountability. The parenting classes Chloe was required to complete were held twice weekly for 12 weeks. Michael received copies of attendance records. She missed 4 sessions in the first month alone, always with excuses. The coordinator warned her. She started attending more regularly after that, but her participation was minimal. The instructor's notes mention she demonstrates resistance to feedback and appears to view the requirement as punitive rather than educational. Her psychological evaluation was even more concerning. The therapist's report described her as having narcissistic tendencies with poor insight into her own behavior and limited capacity for empathy, particularly regarding her children's emotional needs. Chloe called me after receiving that report, the first time we'd spoken directly since the custody hearing. "Are you happy now? They're calling me a narcissist who can't love her own children. They're calling you someone who needs help. There's a difference. This is all your fault. If you just watched them that weekend, none of this would have happened. If you'd accepted my no like an adult, none of this would have happened. If you'd verified an address before sending children alone across the city, none of this would have happened. If you'd prioritized their safety over your vacation, none of this would have happened. You made choices, Chloe. These are the consequences. I hate you. I can live with that." She hung up. Arthur called 20 minutes later. "Your sister is devastated. Your grandchildren could have been dead. I'm not sure why everyone keeps losing sight of that fact. Nobody's losing sight of anything, but she's trying to get better. Can't you acknowledge that? She's going through motions because a court ordered her to. That's not the same as genuine change. When she starts showing actual insight and accountability, I'll acknowledge progress." The months dragged on. Chloe completed her parenting classes with minimal passing scores. She attended therapy, but showed limited engagement. Her supervised visitations remained inconsistent. I started taking the kids one weekend per month to give Michael a break. We go to museums, catch movies, or just hang out, playing board games and making elaborate meals. Those weekends became highlights. During one of these visits, Liam asked me a question that broke my heart. "Aunt Gwen, why doesn't Mom like us as much as she likes her friends?" "Oh, buddy, she loves you very much." "Then why does she always look at her phone instead of playing with us? And why did she put us in that taxi alone?" I was really scared. I pulled him into a hug. Some adults have a hard time showing love in the right ways. That's not your fault or about how lovable you are. It's about stuff she needs to work on inside herself. Are you going to send us away, too? Never. I will always be here for you and your sister. That's a promise. Isabel, who'd been pretending not to listen, came over and joined the hug. "We know, Aunt Gwen. You're the only grown-up who doesn't break promises." One Friday evening, about 4 months after the custody ruling, Michael brought the kids to my apartment for dinner. The real apartment, the right address, 847 West Parkview Avenue, apartment 12C. The one Chloe had never bothered to write down completely. "Aunt Gwen, we made you something at school," Isabel said, presenting a construction paper card covered in crayon hearts. Liam hugged my legs. "We missed you." "I missed you, too, buddy." Michael pulled me aside while the kids settled in to watch a movie. "Thank you for everything you did. I know it cost you your relationship with your parents. Those kids deserved someone to protect them. That's all that mattered." Chloe's attorney is pushing for modified custody again. Claims she's completed all the court requirements. My stomach tightened. What do you think will happen? The judge will probably grant limited unsupervised visitation eventually. Short visits, gradually increasing if there are no incidents. He rubbed his face tiredly. "I can't keep them from their mother forever, but I can make damn sure she never gets the chance to be that careless again." The modified custody arrangement went into effect 8 months after the original ruling. Chloe was allowed unsupervised visits every other weekend, starting with just daytime hours and gradually building to overnights if she maintained appropriate standards. The court kept Mr. Miller available for spot checks and required Chloe to maintain her therapy sessions. I ran into her at Eleanor's birthday party, the first family gathering I'd attended since the incident. She looked haggard, older than her 32 years. When she saw me, her face contorted with rage. "You destroyed my life. You endangered your children. I just made sure there were consequences. They're my kids. You had no right. They're human beings who deserve not to be abandoned on a street corner because you couldn't be bothered to verify an address." Eleanor appeared, champagne in hand. "Can we please not do this today? Your golden child nearly got her kids taken because she's too selfish to be a responsible parent," I said evenly. "But sure, let's pretend that everything is fine." Chloe lunged at me. Michael caught her arm, pulling her back. "Don't give them more ammunition against you." "I hate you," she spat at me. "I hope you're happy now." "I'm happy those kids are safe. Everything else is just noise." The party ended early. Arthur walked me to my car, hands in his pockets. "Your mother wants you to apologize." "For what, exactly?" "For testifying against Chloe. For causing problems in the family." I testified truthfully about what happened. If that caused problems, Chloe created them, not me. She's trying to get better. Therapy is helping. That's good. She should have been in therapy years ago. She's still your sister. And those are still children who could have died because she was too entitled to accept the word no. I opened my car door. I love Isabel and Liam more than I need Eleanor's approval. That's not changing. The supervised visitation period lasted a year. Chloe completed her parenting courses and therapy sessions, though Michael told me she viewed them as hoops to jump through. Eventually, the court granted her unsupervised visits 2 weekends per month. I held my breath every time the kids went to her house. Michael did, too. He'd installed tracking apps on their phones and made them promise to call him immediately if anything felt wrong or unsafe. Nothing catastrophic happened, but the small incidents continued. Chloe would forget to pack Liam's allergy medication. She'd schedule activities during Isabel's homework time and then blame the school when grades slipped. She'd promise trips to museums or parks and then spend the day shopping instead, leaving the kids bored and disappointed. Michael documented everything. His attorney assured him that if Chloe demonstrated a pattern of continued negligence, they could petition for modified custody again. I saw the kids regularly. Michael had me listed as an emergency contact, and I picked them up from school when he had late meetings. Isabel had started calling me for advice about friend drama and school projects. Liam would randomly FaceTime me to show me his latest Lego creation or tell me about something funny that happened at recess. They were thriving despite everything. That was all that mattered. Chloe's animosity toward me never faded. Family gatherings became battlegrounds, with her making pointed comments about how I'd stolen her children's love or poisoned them against her. I stopped responding. Her narrative required my participation, and I refused to give it. Eleanor's health declined over the next year. Lung cancer, aggressive and unforgiving. She refused to speak to me even as Arthur urged her to make peace with both daughters. She wants Chloe there, Arthur told me. She keeps asking for her. And I'm sure Chloe is providing wonderful support, I said, unable to keep the bitterness out of my voice. Please don't be like this. She's dying. I'm not stopping anyone from doing anything, but I'm also not pretending the past didn't happen for the sake of a deathbed reconciliation that Eleanor doesn't even want. Eleanor passed on a Tuesday morning. Chloe called me, shrieking that I'd ended it all for our mother with stress and cruelty. Arthur just sounded tired when he asked me to please come to the funeral and try to keep the peace. I went. I sat in the back. I didn't speak to Chloe or engage when she made a scene about me having the audacity to show my face. I paid my respects to Arthur and left. Michael texted me later. The kids wanted me to tell you they're proud of you for going. They know it was hard. That message meant more than anything Eleanor could have said. Life moved forward. Michael's divorce from Chloe was finalized about 18 months after the initial custody ruling. She fought for spousal support and got a minimal amount. 2 years after that, Chloe remarried a surgeon named Daniel, who seemed decent enough. She had another baby, a daughter named Lily. The court allowed regular overnight visits with Isabel and Liam by then, though Michael maintained strict boundaries and documentation. I got promoted at work, started dating someone who actually respected my time and boundaries, built a life that wasn't centered around managing Chloe's chaos or seeking Eleanor's approval. Isabel graduated middle school last spring. She gave a speech as class president about resilience and the importance of people who stand up for what's right, even when it's difficult. She looked directly at me when she said it. After the ceremony, she hugged me tight. Thank you for not letting anything bad happen to us. Always, sweetheart. No matter what. Chloe was there with Daniel and Lily, maintaining her distance. She looked like she wanted to say something but thought better of it. Good. We had nothing left to discuss. Liam started middle school this fall. He joined the chess club and the debate team. Michael jokes that he's going to be a lawyer someday, probably specializing in family law. The kid has a sense of justice that won't quit. I took them both out for ice cream last weekend. Just us. Isabel told me about a boy she likes. Liam showed me a paper he'd written about personal heroes for which he'd chosen Michael for getting primary custody, and me for calling the police that Saturday morning. That's quite an honor, I said, my throat tight. You saved us, he said simply. That makes you a hero. Your dad did the hard part. You did the scary part. Dad says telling the truth when family doesn't want you to is the hardest thing anyone can do. Smart kid. Michael's raising them right. Chloe sent me a message last week. The first direct contact in almost 3 years. The kid's therapist says they need me to be more present. This is your fault. They never would have needed therapy if you hadn't interfered. I blocked her number. Some people will never accept responsibility for their own actions. That's their prison to live in, not mine. Arthur calls occasionally. He's gotten older, frilier. He admits now that he should have stood up to Eleanor more. Should have protected me better when we were young. I appreciate the acknowledgement, even if it doesn't change the past. Chloe asks about you sometimes, he mentioned during our last conversation. What does she ask? If you're happy. If you ever think about reconciling. I am happy. And no, I don't think about reconciling. You can tell her I said so. She made mistakes. She made choices. There's a difference. He was quiet for a moment. You turned out stronger than any of us expected. I turned out exactly as strong as I needed to be. Sometimes I think about that Saturday morning when Officer Carter called. How my entire life pivoted on Chloe's assumption that I'd comply even after saying no. How she'd valued her vacation more than taking 2 extra minutes to write down a complete address. How close we came to tragedy because one person refused to hear boundaries. I don't regret any of it. The family fracture, the lost relationships, Eleanor's resentment, Chloe's hatred, all of it was worth it because Isabel and Liam are safe. They grew up knowing someone would protect them, even when it cost that person everything. That's what love actually looks like, not the conditional, transactional affection Eleanor offered or the entitled demands Chloe made. Real love that shows up when it's hard and stays even when everyone else walks away. Isabel wants me to help her shop for high school next summer. Liam asked if I'd teach him to drive when he turns 16. Michael invited me to Thanksgiving with his parents, who treat me like extended family. I built something better than what I lost, a chosen family that respects boundaries and values safety above all else. Chloe can hate me forever. It changes nothing. I'll still be there when those kids need me, keeping them safe from whatever comes next, including their own mother's dysfunction if necessary. That's a promise I made in a police station all those years ago, and it's one I'll keep until the day I die. What would you have done if you were in my shoes?